to be up here together because we actually met because of Doug. We weren't as a group at the same time, but oh, I'm sorry. I have to tell another story. I worked with Doug beginning in the late '60s, just after the Mother of All Demos. I joined the group, and I learned a lot from Doug. And one of the things I learned was not just about the technology that we were working on, but it was a way of thinking that Doug had, and that's perhaps the most valuable of it all. Maybe there's an example that illustrates this. There's a lot that's been said about Doug as being the creator of the mouse, and usually when you talk about Doug Engelbart, that's the first thing people say, which he did along with Bill English and a few other people. But if you go a little bit behind that and ask the question, why did he create the mouse? Well, if you went to work for Doug, then at some point in the interview, you'd sit down in his office, and he'd be talking to you across his desk, and then he'd reach into his drawer, and he'd pull out a brick, and this brick had a pencil taped to it. And he'd hand you the brick and a piece of paper and say, sign your name. And of course, it was almost impossible to do. And then he'd say, imagine that if that was the best writing implement we had, how would writing have evolved? It wouldn't have. And his basic premise was that the tools that people have influence the evolution of whatever they're used for. If we go back and we look at the state of computers at the time that he was developing basically his online system, the best thing we had for pointing at something on the screen was a light pen. And if people have used light pens, you know they're not very good. And so he recognized that if they were going to make a jump in evolution, then they had to have a better pointing device. And that was why he began looking for the mouse. So, you know, it's a great lesson in the way he thought and the way he approached problems.
I'm only a technologist by marriage. I have no technology at all. But I worked for Doug, and I think what was important, and Karen touched on this a little bit, was this humanist part of him. And the atmosphere that he created in the environment when I worked there fostered friendships that have lasted over the years, as witnessed by many of the people that I work with that are here today that I still stay in touch with. And even more than that, I think he fostered more personal relationships, witnessed by my marriage of a long time. Bill and Roberta English met at in Doug's environment. Two others that I know about are Susan and John Melvin and Larry and Pamela Garlick. I think there were other relationships that may not have survived and some that I don't know about. But I want to thank Doug for introducing me and for creating this very human environment to work in where people really cared about one another.